when does it get to the point where you're driving down the street and you go to turn and suddenly your steering wheel locks because you haven't paid your fee to make left-hand turns? I mean, what?
Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show on cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, digital executive producer, and this is my friend Glenn Packman, who is an automotive enthusiast, has been my friend for close to 4 decades, and is an all-around great guy. So, Glenn,
Yes.
um, the New York State Legislature has
Hmm.
somebody there has introduced a bill that will limit automakers charging for subscription services.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not, as a journalist, I'm not supposed to take a political stand, but
Hmm.
good on this guy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
um, there's a lot of details about this because it's legislation and
Hmm.
things like that. But basically, make it illegal for manufacturers to charge subscription fees for features already installed on vehicles at the time of purchase. And this is from a story on a local Albany website, TV station website. Um, if signed into law, the situation like BMW's infamous heated seat subscription would be subject to a fine of up to $250 for each sale.
Wow.
Tell me what you think about this pending legislation.
Yeah. Good on them. That I'm glad that someone's stepping up early to squish this rather than go too late. And now there is a carve out in here for things that make sense on a subscription level, like Spotify in a car. Well, Spotify is a service that you're paying for. I get that. I don't think that should ever end.
Mhm.
But things that are already there you have to pay extra money after you buy the car to use your heated seats. That's insane. That's just you've already paid for the anything you've already paid for, you don't need to pay again. And somebody could say, well, you've already paid for the sound system in a car. Now you have to pay for subscriptions to get Spotify. Well, yeah, because that's not, that's something different.
It
It just
delivers a it delivers a service.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. Whereas you should be able to unlimited use the heat seated, the heated seats. Try to say that 10 times fast. The heated seats in your car whenever you feel like without having to pay a little bit extra. When does it get to the point where you're driving down the street and you go to turn and suddenly your steering wheel locks because you haven't paid your fee to make left-hand turns? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Oh, we would never
Yeah.
do that, right? Well,
No,
how far
no.
off are we from heated seats? I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Uh,
So so as a I there was a really interesting article on a website called subscriptioninsider.com.
mhm.
And they said, I mean, the reason behind this, because automakers are moving to um, a software-based product, right? And
Right.
what they mean by software-based product, for those of you who don't know, is a vehicle that, rather than being mechanical, is all the functions are in software, and you don't have like cables that run between your heat control and the data that you get on your instrument panel is now computers that are talking to each other. So that is the software-based vehicle, and in that product then they can charge more for this feature and that feature and break it out, right? And they Wall Street likes this sort of thing when they put Wall Street likes it when the car manufacturers put the subscription on there. I don't know as the actual people who work on Wall Street might be appreciative of it, but in
Right.
total sort of aggregate, um, uh, car makers have projected billions in annual reoccurring revenue by 2030, including BMW's goal of 5 billion euros, Mercedes-Benz 10 billion euros, and GM sees 20 to 25 billion dollars in software and services revenue. A car, the average price of a new car is $50,000. And aside from fueling it, whether electrons or gas, and insuring it, now you're going to have like your monthly bill that'll be part of this. I
Hmm.
just like, no, 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 no. And
N-
you and I are not alone in this because surveys from Cox Automotive shows that 75% of drivers oppose monthly fees for features that are included in car hardware.
Right, right.
And yes,
I
yes,
I suppose the argument is that the automakers are like, well, because we're using all this software stuff, we need to do constant upgrades and fixes and patches and and keep it on the curve. And my response to that is bummer, tough. Like, suck it up. We do
yeah,
this at home with our computers all the time because
yes,
they're
yes.
outmoded immediately. You buy something brand new and it's already
But
outdated by 5 years. It's just this
but but
craziness.
but the piece of that doesn't align with this sort of thing is that we get updates, Mac and Windows updates for
Right,
free. Because,
right,
it used to be, you and I are both old enough to remember, like, you know, Windows came out and then Windows 95 came out. And you paid like 110, whatever, $150 to get the new Windows 95,
right.
right? Or the next version of the Mac. And then what the, the computer companies realize is that if we give that and the updates away for free, then more people will end up buying the computers.
Right.
Okay. So we don't have to wait for the disc to come in the mail and
Hmm.
update to the next operating system. It's like, no, bip, you know, and I don't understand why car makers don't say. Maybe it's because it's a larger purchase and they're trying to draw it out. I mean, you can go back to phones, phones in the house, right?
Hmm.
And for you kids out there used to be what we called landlines, and they were wired phones, and you had one phone in the house, and and you paid for the service and you rented the phone. And that's how AT&T became the gargantuan monopoly that they did.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until like the 70s that you could actually really go and buy a
Purchase.
separate phone.
Right. I don't quote me on this. I think it may have been actually illegal to like
It
own a
might have
phone.
been. It
Yeah,
might have been.
because I
They certainly
remember,
probably didn't like it.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
you're missing rental revenue, but yeah,
right,
I mean,
right.
yeah.
And every once in a while you hear of some older person who has been paying for their landline, their phone in their kitchen, for
Hmm.
40 years,
For 40 years, right? And they've spent $18,000 over the
Right,
course of time
right.
to
To
own their
get
phone.
the Western Electric,
Yeah,
wall phone.
right.
But so I mean, from a product standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint, I understand that you're trying to find other revenue streams. Eh, good.
Yeah,
That's what consumerism and you know capitalism is about. Good.
right.
But these things just are not popular, and you get a lot of pushback on them. And you know, I don't know, it's probably 10 years ago now since the heated seats thing on the BMW happened, but they're
Mm.
still getting crap for it.
Yeah, yeah, they should. They should.
Yeah.
I want to touch base on GM for a second because I think they started all of this with OnStar. And
Yeah.
OnStar was polarizing and might still be. But here's the difference with OnStar. OnStar is an actual service, okay? There's a lot of stuff that goes along with you press a button and you get someone live that says OnStar, how can I help? That
Mm-hmm.
means you're connected to a call center and it's creating jobs and it's
Mm-hmm.
an industry.
Mm-hmm.
You're the the heating mechanisms in your seat is not, and and
just
that's a
there.
button and you turn on your seats. It's different. So I think anything service oriented, fine, great. I'm gonna totally date myself and really come across like somebody's grandpa. I am, but I just signed up for Apple Music.
Yeah.
And I had been bucking Apple Music for years. And now that I'm a subscriber of Apple Music, I'm like, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Or whenever they came out with it.
Yeah,
And it was
no,
because I
but
just needed my brain to get around the whole concept of you need to own the music to play the music,
mhm,
you know. And that's the beauty of Apple Music is there is this gargantuan library that you can tap into whatever you feel, whenever you feel like. You don't need to buy the
mhm,
songs. So, but you
mhm.
do need to pay us a monthly service.
Yeah,
That's okay.
right.
And by the way, Apple Music is what, 10.99 a month
Yeah,
right now? Uh,
mhm,
Fine, take my money. Um,
right.
but you know, I don't I it's one thing to have a $500 car payment. It's another one to have a $500 car payment and $250 a month for all the things that you've added on, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And that's a problem, you know? It
Mm.
reduces if I can put it into housing parlance, it reduces the amount of money that you have available to buy a car. Because if you're looking at a property that has an HOA fee, well,
Mhm,
take that off of your buying power immediately.
mhm.
And it's going to be the same thing with cars. Oh yeah, I have 50,000 to spend on a car, but oh God, I'm going to need to spend money on all these other things on top of it.
We're going to come back, and I have some breakdowns of this and where things go. We'll be back in a minute. All right, so we're back, and this really great article in Subscription Insider, which broke it down, and there's three categories. There's features on demand, which are the subscription fee unlocks something, and those are
Mhm.
recurring fees that enable features already installed in software in hardware. The BMW heated seats, which was actually only in Germany, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, a Mercedes-Benz EQ, which was an acceleration boost. How just ballpark it? How much do you think this costed a year? Cost a year?
The acceleration boost.
Yeah.
Oh God. It shouldn't cost anything. You should just buy a car with an engine that gives you the most power at all times. But
Right.
I let's say 49.95 a month.
$1,200 a year.
Oh,
So
okay.
$100 a month.
$100 a month. So I was off by half.
Half.
Um,
And
well,
I would say that your price was extremely unreasonable, and their price is actually twice as unreasonable.
yeah, there you go.
Also, VW's pay per horsepower upgrade.
Mhm.
And I get that you have on a Mazda, if you put premium gas into it, you get more horsepower. That's fine. You're making that choice, right? But okay. Anyway, so the second thing is vehicle access subscription. Month to month or multi-vehicle membership models where the customer subscribe to use the car itself. So that's like your Volvo where you could choose different models every month. I think they tried it here and I don't think it was very successful. They might have tried it in other countries, but it allows some flexibility. And on the manufacturer's side or the dealer side, what it's doing is it's creating used cars, and those cars get cycled into their certified pre-owned program and
Right.
stuff like that. And then the third thing is connected service subscriptions. So ongoing services that require data, software updates, or connectivity. So that would be your OnStar, Blue
Mhm.
Cruise, Kia Connect, Tesla full self-driving supervised, because it doesn't just get called full self-driving anymore. It's full self-driving supervised and other premium connectivity. So that is
Mhm.
data in the car. Maybe it runs hotspots, and things like that. Now, one of the things that GM will sell you Super Cruise, will sell you a vehicle with Super Cruise, but you get it for 3 years for free.
Mhm.
Ford, it's 90 days. Um, I don't know. I mean, I understand like having your car being another line on your phone plan,
Hmm.
right? And it become a hot spot. I get that. That, you know, that doesn't offend me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see the worth in the self-driving or near self-driving.
No, no, nope. Mm-mm. It
I
just,
mean,
that is just something that doesn't seem to be gelling. So, I mean, and I live outside of New York City, and they've made it abundantly clear that these things do not work in New York City. They're like,
sure,
there's a
yeah.
little asterisk saying, "Hey, welcome to self-driving. Don't use this in New York." Well, New York is confusing as hell. Never mind, I'm a piece of, I work on bits. Yes and no. The only answer
Yeah,
is, can I turn left
yeah.
on the street? Well, yes and no. Welcome to New York.
Right, exactly.
No, nothing
Exactly.
against New York. It's just it's a huge metropolis with all sorts of, craziness going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I my my personal feeling on this, and I think it's perfectly fair. If you're getting a service, you're paying for a service. Like somebody, I was talking to somebody about this, and they were like, "Well, well then, how would you feel about living in a planned development where you pay an HOA?" And I'm like, "Well, an HOA isn't just for somebody to collect money. An HOA is for the improvements of the place in general. It's
Right,
for
right.
landscaping. It's for it returns back to you in different ways. So
Mhm,
yeah, is it additional on top of the fact that you just bought a house? Of course it is. But it also means that I don't need to go out and mow the lawn.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
and there it is. There it is. If you're paying for something that is, that's helping you out, taking something off your plate, fantastic. I've
Yeah.
never had a problem with OnStar because it's a concierge service.
Mhm.
And if you want a concierge, pay for it.
And
Great.
it's also saved people's lives,
Yes. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know? And you were absolutely right when you said about they have a call center and they have a process and they know who to, when you're in an emergency situation and you hit that button, like now you don't have to think of, well, who do I need to call to tow?
Right.
Where do I, how do I get what's going on? I have this problem and how can I help figure it out? And then that's totally their job. And you're right. I mean, that makes sense to pay that money.
Tangentially, we're talking about taxation is what it really comes
Mhm,
down to is, how
mhm.
fair are taxes? And that's the American condition is we argue about our taxes all the time, but that, it's to be expected,
Sure.
you can't, I remember that there was some radical, very radical libertarian, nothing against libertarians, but this guy was way, way at one end of the spectrum who posted something like, he said, "My daughter saved up to buy a guitar, and then we went to buy it, and we found out it wasn't enough because she couldn't afford the tax on the guitar." And I'm like, and to which all these people piled in and was like, "Oh, did you stop at a stoplight along the way, or was the intersection completely uncontrolled because you didn't pay your taxes on that? Was the
Mhm.
road paved?" And it was just all these list of things that go along with some of the things that come with your taxes, and no,
Very
that's
tough.
all to be expected. You know, a, a subscription to use basics on a car you just bought, and that's an insult. So
Yeah.
I can
Well,
understand some of these things. Let's say somebody came out with the tire subscription where you pay $5 a month, and then
you
but
get
you're
your
just building
tires.
up amounts to buy some discounted tires. Okay, great. That's almost like I pay $5 a month for printer ink. And I
Mhm,
don't order printer ink on a monthly basis, but it just accrues over time. And then
mhm,
when I do need to order printer ink, I just order it.
mhm.
Now, am I probably overpaying? Yeah, but I don't ever have to think about it. I don't ever, and then when I go to pay, I don't have to go, wait, a cartridge costs what? I don't ever do that. So yeah,
It's the old Kodak model, right?
yeah, yes,
That they made
yes,
money
Doug.
on the film, not the
Hmm.
camera.
Right, right, totally, absolutely.
And
As someone who worked for a photomat, kids, look it up. Um, yes,
Glenn spent a lot of time in a tiny box in a parking lot.
actually, I didn't. My photomat was in a mall. It was in a. I had a storefront, but we did have the little kiosks at that point in time. And P.S. By the way, the number one question at any photomat kiosk was, "Is there a bathroom in there?" There was not. There was not a bathroom in the little photomat kiosks. They made a deal with a nearby fill in the blank to use
Yeah,
their employee restroom. But anyways, way off course.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Anyway, let's we're gonna come back. We're gonna take a break and we'll come back to more stuff on
and now I
this.
have to use the bathroom. So yeah, okay.
All right. It's we're back and it's the pause that refreshes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Does
Um
my office have a bathroom? Well, no, really.
I just, you know, I mean, you were talking about the tires. And I think if you're in that accrual model, so that
Hmm.
when and maybe people thought more about this rather than just, going out and buying it, spending 600 or $1,000 on new tires, rather
Hmm.
if you thought about it as an accrual, like, okay, I use the tires this much and this is what I'm, but
Right,
that's a use item. That is a
right.
wear and not a wear and tear. Is it a wear
Yeah,
and tear item? Yeah.
yeah, sure,
So
absolutely. Yeah,
you have this expectation that, you
yeah.
eventually you're going to have to replace those things.
Hmm.
And that's fine.
Hmm.
We car ownership is about that, it's
Hmm.
not just going to be that one thing. And and then okay, so here's something that's kind of tangential to this, right? We buy gas and
Hmm.
there are state and federal taxes,
Right,
which are primarily in most states um, designated to take care of the roads,
right,
building new roads, building new bridges and stuff like that. The infrastructure, that's where it goes. And you have electric cars which are using these roads. However, they are not paying through the gas tax.
hmm.
What do you think is do you think it would be fair to charge EVs a surcharge, a road surcharge or something like that?
Ah, wow. Now, now you're actually really deeply getting into what politics is supposed to be about,
Sure.
how we spend our tax money. That is a really valid question because if we do take away gasoline completely, then we will be without that money, and that tax money has to come from somewhere else. So, I'm gonna say I don't know. I, as someone who's never owned an electric vehicle,
Mm,
my knee-jerk reaction is, well, yeah, it should be that if I'm paying more money to gas up a car, then I should be getting, then the people who donate to gas up the car to use my
mm,
streets or their streets or our streets should do the same thing. But then the argument is back, but yeah, I had to pay a lot more for an electric vehicle you
mm.
know. So I don't. I'm going to say I don't know and leave it at that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get a lot of hateful comments in the
Yeah. No,
in the comments. Yeah.
I
Oh.
I feel like I think you can make a case for a use tax.
Hmm.
And maybe instead of taxing gasoline, you tax the use in some other way. I know
Hmm.
that wouldn't be popular, but I think it would be fairer. And when you think about, well, I think that the argument is for for that is that EVs are heavier. When you have a 9,000 pound Hummer, GMC Hummer
Hmm.
EV running down the road, that's going to be a lot more um, uh, use the
Hmm.
the the infrastructure at a higher rate. It's the same thing with trucks. Trucks are very heavy,
Right.
but if you think about it, like trucks are apportioned, right? There's a system by which that trucks can drive interstate highways and pay some port, and I only have the barest understanding of how it works. But a truck, the vehicle taxes are spread out throughout the states in some system, and I'll leave it at that. But I
Hmm.
think if you use that kind of model, does that solve your problem?
Right. Right.
It's a thought. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I
I was
think
just
I Go ahead.
I was just thinking that, if there was some way to pay on a per mile basis for how much you drive your car, you drive a
Mhm.
lot, you pay more for the use of the roads. You drive very little, you pay a little. But then we're getting into Big Brother territory because let's say somebody says, okay, well, I have a pickup truck, but I also own a ranch and
Mhm.
I use this on, private roads that don't have any, public funding for
Mhm.
3/4 of the time. Oh, okay. Well, the government says, all right, then we're going to put in a device that'll monitor when you're on the public roads. Well, then we're into Big Brother territory in a major way.
And then
Oh,
this comes back to, we've talked about this in the past, is the reporting from the electronics of the car as to where it is, how fast it was driving, how fast they stopped,
mm-hmm,
what kind of things like that. And then
mm-hmm,
that information, when you get an insurance company that says, well, you put this little module in your car and you can save money.
right,
And I don't know
right,
if anyone actually saves that money because it's reporting that information back to the
right.
insurance company, and it all gets into, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
No,
all
no,
that information ties into your, maybe your credit score or this or that, the other thing, and it becomes this other way of managing, it's speed cameras,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, it's nice to have a neighborhood where people aren't speeding through it, but if you're going through it, now all of a sudden you're talking about, $150 fine.
right, right.
Yeah, we're coming up on time here. So
Okay.
remember that you can watch old episodes of Car-Pinionated
Mm-hmm.
and on YouTube, and you can look for us there. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.